Vice President Mike Pence and Democratic Vice Presidential nominee Kamala Harris taking the debate stage last night, and this one was actually more of a debate as opposed to the presidential face-off last week, largely seen as a debacle.
As we mentioned earlier, we don't know if the presidential contenders are going to debate again, with President Trump said he will not do a virtual event. So let's get some insight on debating here from a pro. Dr. Toinette Gunn is the executive director of Chicago Debates. It is the largest urban policy debate league in the country, and they work inside Chicago public schools. Glad you could be here to talk about this.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, I'm assuming that the debate we saw last night is different than when your students debate. What were some of your takeaways of the VP debate?
Oh, very different than what our students do. And at our core, students have established a community of respect. And so they allow each other to speak when the other is speaking without interrupting them. That at its core is seen as very disrespectful to do such a thing. And within policy debate, there are time limits. And when your time is up, your time is up. And you concede at that point for your opponent to go ahead and speak. And if you continue to interrupt and exceed your time, you can be disqualified and lose your debate round.
Wow. Over talking, going beyond your time. What about this tactic we saw repeatedly last night about just ignoring the question on the table and talking about whatever you want? Is that a common tactic as well, Dr. Gunn?
Absolutely not. It is very much seen as not knowing what you're doing, not knowing what you're talking about. And you will lose all credibility and lose the debate should you come forward ill-prepared to be able to debate on the topic that you are debating about and answering questions about.
So I saw a lot of women on social media last night talking about, as they watched a man and a woman debating, they were familiar with the dynamic they were seeing on the screen. Talk about how gender as well as race played into this debate, you think?
So I, too, have to say that I can absolutely relate to Vice Presidential nominees' challenges with Vice President Pence last night, and having been ignored or disregarded or just kind of talked over in different boardrooms and platforms by other folks. And it is definitely disrespectful. You certainly feel disregarded and unheard. And I appreciate and can relate to her being empowered enough to stand her ground, to be able to let him know that she was speaking. And that is, again, just respect to allow the other person to speak when you are speaking.
Dr. Gunn, the status of this next presidential debate right now, a lot of it's up in the air. It's supposed to be virtual, but the president says he won't be participating if it is a virtual debate. How would doing this debate, not in person, but virtually in different parts of the country, perhaps, change the dynamic?
Well, I think they can learn a bit from our debaters here in Chicago and across the nation. We have quickly pivoted to bring debate virtually to students. And this is happening at the college level, at the high school level, across the nation. It is doable. The one thing that I would say that they miss out on, and this is different for political debate, they don't get to establish community in the same way and engage with each other. But the act of debate, getting the information out there and arguing each other's points and rebutting and things of that nature absolutely can and is happening. We kicked off our summer season with a virtual debate camp that happened for 2 weeks, and we'll have our first debate virtual tournaments this weekend. And so it's doable. And there's not much different other than you're not in person debating the issue.
Dr. Toinette Gunn from Chicago Debates, we're so glad you could be with us to give us your expertise on this issue. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Earlier in the show, we